Everyone, I was hoping in this video to have a more casual and informal chat. I am going to talk about a lot of books still because I've read a bunch and they are a cluster, they're connected, and it mostly has to do with Winnie-the-Pooh. I think there's something about Winnie-the-Pooh that keeps showing up in my life, at least every few years in some form or another, and every single time I find myself kind of going down this rabbit hole of obsessing with like both nature and the Winnie-the-Pooh stories, or reading about the A.A. Milne. And it's almost like every 2 to 3 years he just shows up somehow in one form or another. I remember just before the pandemic I had gone to see a movie called Christopher Robin, with Obi-Wan playing the grown-up Christopher Robin. And while I didn't love that movie very much, there was something about the obsession of that Winnie-the-Pooh and his balloon, and how much he cherished something so simple that most grown-ups would walk past in the train station. There was something so pleasant about it. And then the very last thing that I've done before the world shut down in March of 2020, I went to the museum to watch an exhibit specifically about Winnie-the-Pooh. And I remember just kind of falling in love again, being in awe, just taking it all in. And that was just like my last memory before the world shut down. And I don't know if you've seen this online and stuff, but people are talking about the great pandemic skip, where people feel like their life has kind of been pinned down or put on hold when the pandemic started. And ever since, they feel like they've missed out on like 3 to 4 years. That's a very significant chunk of their life, but they're mentally stuck in the place where they started. So for some people, you know, the pandemic hit them when they were like 26 and now they're in their 30s, and they feel like there were some experiences that they wanted to have while still in their 20s that they didn't get to have. And now it just feels surreal, or like the time didn't even happen. I wasn't planning on reading anything to do with Winnie-the-Pooh right now. But I was doom scrolling on through TikTok at night, and I came across this clip from Gabor Mate. He's in this interview with his son. Gabor Mate, if you don't know, is a physician. He's in his 70s. He is incredibly well versed in anything to do with addiction or addiction studies. He's written a book on ADHD. He's incredibly famous right now, so I don't think you really need me to tell you who he is. His son, in a podcast, asks him if he has any kind of regrets. And I am paraphrasing here, but as he's talking to his son, he says, you know, I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish that I would have been more like Winnie-the-Pooh and just take it easy and just take it as it comes. I mean, he elaborates a little bit more, but I think this sparked in me an interest to return a little bit to Winnie-the-Pooh stories, but also this idea of his, not passivity, but kind of acceptance of what is. And I remembered coming across this book once called The Tao of Pooh, and I got it out. I also listened to the audiobook as I was following along, and it's so beautiful because it talks about the concepts of Daoism and the way Winnie-the-Pooh embodies this kind of going with the flow. The Tao is kind of like the way of the universe, and Pooh is just kind of embodying this acceptance. One of the reasons I love him so much is the way he just doesn't give a bother. And this got me thinking, you know, when I was a kid, I didn't watch Winnie-the-Pooh movies, and I didn't like Winnie-the-Pooh as a kid. I don't remember that. I remember as a kid being more obsessed with much more grown-up things. And then as an adult, when I went through my 20s and I was in school and really stressed or during finals, I would go back to Winnie-the-Pooh as if like I had remembered him from long ago, even though I wasn't ever as interested in him as a kid. It's almost like I reversed, where in childhood I was looking for complexity and in adulthood I was looking for simplicity. And I don't know if this is something that other people experience too, because I feel like sometimes, you know, you see kids and they read books that are, you know, difficult and interesting, and then adults are looking for something calm and simple, and the simpler the better. If you are interested in reading The Tao of Pooh, if you haven't already, it's an older book. I think the author's name is Benjamin Hoff, and he wrote a sequel or a companion to this book called The Tale of Piglet, which is more about character that he embodies. I have not read that one yet. What I loved about the Tao of Pooh, while the author is kind of dropping fun facts or information in a way that's kind of like a bridge person, where he's relaying things to you in a way that appeal to someone who might be living in the West, but simplifying it. I don't want to call it mindfulness because I know that's a term that's been thrown around lately, but he is sort of simplifying it and explaining it to you. But throughout this narration, Winnie-the-Pooh himself interrupts and starts kind of not caring or just being a little bit himself, you know? And just his like simplicity in character comes through. And it's almost like he's showing you that even when we talk about Daoism, we're overcomplicating it. That some things can just be more simple and you can just not care. I don't know, there's just something in that book that's worth looking at, but it's so short and I wish I had someone to talk to about this book. And I thought at first that I wanted to make a video about Taoism and Pooh, but I went on YouTube and there are several videos on it already. And I feel like those people captured a lot of what I was thinking and feeling, and there's no point for me to make a video about the same exact thing. So I am gonna link a few of those down below if you're interested. But this sent me on a bit of a quest to find things that are sort of similar in nature or about Winnie-the-Pooh that I connect to more. So the first book that I got is called The Natural World of Winnie-the-Pooh. At first I thought this was written by the same author who wrote the Gardening Life series with Emily Dickinson and Beatrix Potter, but it's not. This is a different author. Her name is Kathryn Aalto, and this book looks at the sort of non-fiction nature or naturalism elements around Winnie-the-Pooh, specifically when it has to do with A.A. Milne and E.H. Shepard. We get the biographical detail about both the illustrator Shepard and A.A. Milne, the author. And then we look at all of their inspirations, where the artwork might have been drawn from in terms of nature, where Shepard grew up, but all of the places that have to do with nature in Milne's life. And there are plenty. And as we go through these, we also explore kind of in more detail the flora and even some animals, but mostly the nature parts, the landscapes. If you enjoy kind of the idea of gardening or any kind of nature writing, but you also like combinations of biography and talking a little bit about Winnie-the-Pooh, this book is so for you. This is a book that is better experienced visually, but there is an audiobook as well, if you like the combination, as I often tend to do. After this, I read The House at Pooh Corner. I have kind of the anthology here of all of the, well, I guess it's not anthology, it's a collection of all the Milne Winnie-the-Pooh books. And I only looked at The House at Pooh Corner. I remember that one being kind of the coziest. I then got a book called A Walk in the Wood. This is Meditations on Mindfulness with a Bear Named Pooh. And this is written by Dr. Joseph Parent and Nancy Parent. And again, this kind of looks at, you know, the anxious nature of our society today and the go of everything and kind of settling down and meditating with Pooh. I do think it is kind of bouncing off of that classic book of the Tao of Pooh. And it had some messaging that was very repetitive from the other books. It gradually takes you through what is mindfulness, how to slow down, drawing on some examples from Winnie-the-Pooh. But it's kind of more like something you'd like to listen to in the background as you take a walk. I mentioned a few videos ago that I read The Philosophy of Walking and How to Walk by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I was hoping to just kind of get that sort of like go with the vibe, but listen to something as well, kind of walking meditation. This book felt a little bit more like what I was looking for. The last book I read in this cluster is called Effortless Living. And this is again something I was looking to just sort of bounce off of all of these ideas. And it just looks at how to be more like water, more malleable, going with the flow. And the differences between being passive and, you know, accepting mistreatment and accepting things as they are without resisting them, like the opposing resistance. I found the Effortless Living book to be very similar to things I had read again before the pandemic, but it was a bundle of books from Alan Watts. There are so many videos now with Alan Watts audio. And at the time, you know, he was one of the few people to kind of relate Eastern thought to the West in a way that was easy to understand, but relating to the problems of, you know, the United States of America. The hierarchy, the corporate ladder, the anxiety that people have in terms of what they want to achieve, and the competitive nature of a lot of elements of capitalism, but also the way people just can't divorce themselves from that, or from aspiring to climb all the way to the top of any kind of field or any kind of career or any kind of, you know, social hierarchy, even in terms of making millions and millions of dollars. Nice to just be reminded of this like Winnie-the-Pooh-esque lifestyle and effortless living. I am not going to pretend that I am an expert on Taoism right now. I don't feel that well read in this topic, but it is something that I keep dabbling in from time to time. And it's something I enjoy listening to, especially like as I go to sleep at night or when I take a walk outside in nature. It's something that I find soothing, and I find its messaging to be kind of a good reminder from time to time, especially when I feel like I'm burning out in some sort of way. I don't really know how to end this video, but I like to think of these as kind of, you know, little time capsules of my thoughts and feelings at the time. And right now, this is just what's been on my mind. Thank you for watching and listening if you've made it this far, and I will see you in my next video.